Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developmental Psychology, DEP 2004. I am Dr. Rivera. Now, there are other ways that we learn through society, and specifically, we observe a great deal by we learn a great deal by observing others. We observe people that we consider to be models. Sometimes these are leaders in our community, but not always. Sometimes it's an older friend or a coworker, or you just see someone at the supermarket behaving a specific way, and you mimic that behavior because you saw that it worked for them. So we'll talk a lot about different types of social cognitive theories, and how we learn through those. Another theory that we're going to hit on just over and over and over again is Piaget's cognitive development theory. Cognitive development talks about several stages that we all go through um, as we get older. So this is a maturation kind of theory. You have to wait until you're the right age to mature into the next stage. The sensorimotor stage, the preoperational stage, the concrete operational stage, and the formal operational stage. Um, as we mature, we go through these stages. And so this is Piaget is one of the first researchers to tell us children don't think like adults. Remember when I talked to you about how in the past people thought that children were kind of evil and that they were just tiny adults, and when they didn't do something right, people believed that the reason the child didn't do the thing right is because they didn't want to. They did it poorly on purpose. Um, well, Piaget comes around, and he's the first researcher to really start to say a 2-year-old does not have the mental capacity to think like a 6-year-old, to think like a 12-year-old, and certainly not like an adult. And um, we're going to go over these concepts over and over and over again, especially as we go through the different stages in life. Now, just so you have a quick overview as we move forward, I want you to think about these as children get older. In the sensory motor stage, when a child is born, all the way till around 2 years old, um, the child is in their sensory motor stage. In the sensory motor stage, the child's brain works. They're internalizing a lot of information, they're learning a lot of things, their brain is categorizing things, is making sense of the world. By the time a child is 2 years old, they know a lot about the world. But there's a problem. And the problem is that they can't control their brain. You can't ask a 1-year-old to remember what they did yesterday and have them remember it. They might tell you something, but what they tell you doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what they did yesterday. And so you can try this with a 1-year-old. You can ask them what they did yesterday, especially if you know what they did. And what you'll notice is that they're going to tell you something kind of random. Sometimes parents will just tell you things like, oh, he's just lying, right? But the child isn't lying. The child cannot control the memory or the apparatus in his brain to force that memory to come out. And they won't be able to do that for a while. Now, right around 2, so from around 2 to around 7 years old, they're going to be in their preoperational stage. And at the preoperational stage, now the child can control their mind, and they're trying to use logic. They're trying to use what they know to make sense of the world in front of them, but their logic isn't great. There's a lot of things that interfere with their ability to do logic well. And when we talk about 2-year-olds, we'll go into detail there. And so it really won't be until the child is around 7 years old to around uh, 11 where they hit the concrete operational stage. And in the concrete operational stage, these kids actually do have control of their mind. They have gotten very good at using their mind, and they can make good sense of the world in front of them. Um, if you have kids, is right around this stage, 7 to around 11, when you start being super impressed by them. You're like, my kid is a genius. Look at how smart they are. Because just a little while ago, they were having just an impossible time of very simple mental tasks. Now they are leaping and they make, you know, um, really strong and really complex logical leaps in their mind. And sometimes they'll just explain something to you and you're like, what? How do you know that? How did you make sense of that? And during this stage, that's perfectly normal. That's exactly what we want them to be doing. But they still have problems in this stage. And the main problem is that they don't do well with hypotheticals and they don't do well with abstract thinking. So you're not going to have an easy time teaching a 6-year-old to, solve for X or to imagine what it might be like to um, be in Mars where the gravity is whatever 5 times less than Earth, right? They're not going to be able to do that mental leap. And they might say something magical, but they won't be able to do the logical work there to say, well, if I understand this concept and I understand that that's happening in this other place, even though I've never seen it happen or can't imagine that it could happen, I can still do the mental work hypothetically and give you an answer based on that. That's very difficult for that 7 to 11-year-old. Now, by the time a child is around 11 into 12, they're going to be in their formal stage. And at their formal stage, the truth is you can teach an 11-year-old anything you can teach any grown-up. Now, if it's something complicated, if it's um, calculus, well, you have to go through the process of teaching them arithmetic and then algebra and then trigonometry and then the next thing and the next thing, the next thing, right? You can't just skip stuff. But that 11-year-old is going to be able to follow the logic that you are trying to instill into them, even if it is hypothetical, even if it is um, abstract. Now, there are problems that young people in their formal state are going to have. A lot of times, the ideal world interferes with their logic, so they can do any kind of logic, but sometimes what they expect to be the ideal world, right? If they think, moms are supposed to love their kids and make them treats. If mom doesn't do that, um, even if they can do the mental logic, mom's stressed out, something happened at work, they can do the mental logic. It becomes very difficult for them to accept that mom is not acting in this ideal way that I expect her to act. And in fact, that will interfere with their logic and their ability to accept what's happening in front of them. And again, we'll talk more about that when we talk about adolescence. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. And remember that the best way to contact me is directly through Canvas. I hope to hear from you soon.